Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down every single chapter of the greatest story ever told. And today, we are on chapter 49, Storm.
Storm. A very fitting title. Last week, we were left with Zoro staring at Gin, looking absolutely puzzled. This week, we find out why.
We find out why, and then about a dozen other things happen that completely change the game. We are talking about a goal being set, a betrayal that cuts deep, and one of the most legendary entrances in the entire series.
A massive ship is cleaved into as if it were a piece of fruit.
And the man responsible arrives on a little boat that looks like a coffin. If you think that sounds like the kind of story detail worth obsessing over every week, maybe drop a follow on whatever app you're using. We do this every chapter, and the storms only get bigger from here.
Let's get into it. The chapter picks right back up in the Barati. Gin is terrified, describing the man who single-handedly destroyed Don Krieg's entire fleet.
And I mean terrified. This isn't just a tough guy telling a war story. Gin is broken. He's sweating, his eyes are wide, he's reliving a nightmare. He saw something that his brain can't properly process. He's describing a force of nature, not a man.
It's the terror of a man who thought he understood the hierarchy of power, only to see it completely obliterated. He served the strongest man in the East Blue, and they were all wiped out like insects.
And Zeph, old Zeph, he just calmly says he knows a guy with hawk eyes. He's just stirring his drink or wiping the counter, totally unfazed. And you see the connection click for everyone. It's not just the eyes, it's the sheer destructive power. One man, an entire fleet. Gin confirms it. That's him.
Zeph's calmness here is so important. It's not just him being a tough old man. It's the voice of Grand Line experience. For everyone else in that room, this story is a monster movie. For Zeph, it's a Tuesday. He's seen things on that level before. It's his way of subtly telling everyone, you kids have no idea what's really out there.
It's a quiet flex for sure. He's not bragging, he's just stating a fact of the world he comes from. And while everyone else is reeling from this info, the camera, the focus of the chapter, just zooms right in on one man.
Luffy and Usopp have no idea who he is, which makes sense. They're from the East Blue. This man's reputation clearly hasn't reached their small islands. But then the focus shifts to Zoro.
And there it is, the line that changes everything for his character. Zoro just says it plain. He's the man I'm looking for. The final boss of his entire dream just wandered into the same patch of ocean as him. The look on his face isn't shock, it's recognition, like he just found the landmark he's been searching for his whole life.
That one panel of Zoro's face is magnificent. The intensity, the focus. There's no fear in his eyes. He's not hearing about a monster. He's hearing about a mountain he has to climb. This is the moment his abstract goal becomes a concrete target.
Exactly. It's one thing to say, I'm going to be the best. It's another to have the best show up at your lunch spot. The sheer coincidence is insane, but it also feels like destiny. Like the world itself is testing him. You want this kid? Here he is. Show me what you've got.
He explains that Johnny had told him the guy was supposedly in this area. It explains his expression from last chapter. It wasn't confusion at Gin's story. It was the dawning realization that his entire quest might be coming to a head right here, right now. This wasn't just a random story. It was a clue he was already chasing.
You can feel the electricity in the room. The world just got so much bigger and so much more specific. Zoro's goal was this abstract thing, world's greatest swordsman. Now it has a face, it has a name, Hawkeyes, and he's just a few miles away apparently.
Sanji, ever the pragmatist, immediately cuts through the mystique. He's not interested in destiny, he's interested in logic. He asks the logical question. Did Krieg's fleet have a grudge with him? Did they do something to provoke him?
It's the sane person's question. There must be a reason, right? You don't just annihilate an entire armada for no reason. There has to be a cause and effect.
And Gin's answer is what makes it so terrifying. He says no, not that he can recall, he just attacked them. The sheer casualness of the violence is what's so chilling.
Before that moment can sink in, though, Patty comes crashing in to remind them that, oh yeah, there's still a massive pirate fleet parked right outside their restaurant. The philosophical debate has to wait. The brawl is about to start.
The scene shifts to Krieg's ship, the dreadnought Saber. The crew is recovering, eating the food Zeph gave them. They're celebrating. They survived the Grand Line. They're back.
They call it the Pirates' Graveyard. These are hardened pirates, and they are overjoyed to be out of there. You can feel the relief. They're laughing, they're eating. They think the nightmare is over. They think they're safe. But they don't know their captain.
Krieg gets their attention and tells them the new plan. They're going to steal the Barati and use it to return to the Grand Line.
The mood just dies instantly. It's like a record scratch. These guys just escaped death. They just got their first meal in who knows how long, and their captain's plan is to immediately run back into the meat grinder that almost killed them all. The whiplash is brutal.
It's a fantastic depiction of bad leadership. Krieg isn't leading them to glory. He's dragging them back to their doom because his ego can't handle the defeat. He sees the Grand Line not as a place of adventure, but as a challenge to his title as strongest. He has to conquer it to prove to himself that the hawk-eyed man was a fluke.
One of them speaks up. He says what everyone is thinking. It's suicide. He questions Krieg's decision. He's probably the bravest man on that whole ship in that moment.
He is. He represents the collective will of the crew. They don't want to go back. They're terrified. He's their only voice.
And Krieg, without a moment's hesitation, just shoots him, fires a gun right into his own crewman in front of everyone. That's his leadership style. Not inspiration, just pure, brutal fear. There's no debate, no rousing speech, just murder.
It's a stark contrast to the scene we just saw with Luffy and Zoro. They lead with a conviction that makes you want to follow them into hell. Krieg leads with a gun to your back that forces you into hell. It's the difference between a captain and a tyrant.
And it works for now. The crew immediately snaps back in line, cheering for his plan. It's so pathetic. It's the most hollow, "Yay, Captain," you'll ever see. They're terrified. But Krieg doesn't care. He says they'll take the Barati easily because they're mere chefs.
Famous last words. As his men start to attack the restaurant, something happens.
Something impossible happens. Their galleon, this huge, intimidating ship we've seen for a few chapters now, the symbol of Don Krieg's entire military might, is just sliced, clean, in two.
The manga just shows this massive, clean cut right through the middle of the ship. The entire vessel just splits apart and the sea rushes in. Oda draws it with such finality. There's no motion blur, no action lines, just the result. A bisected ship sinking.
The scale of it is it's a paradigm shift. We've seen cannonballs, we've seen swords, but we have never seen power on this level. To cut a ship in half, one attack, it's an act of God. Krieg's crew is in disbelief, screaming that the ship has been cut. They can't even form a coherent sentence.
And Krieg himself refuses to believe it. It's outside his comprehension that someone could do that. He's the strongest man he knows, and this is an act of a god to him. His response is denial. Impossible. A ship that massive can't be cut. His brain rejects the reality in front of him because accepting it means accepting his own insignificance.
Back in the restaurant, Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp are obviously worried. They hear the commotion and remember that the Going Merry is parked right next to that giant galleon. Their first thought isn't about the enemy, it's about their home, the Merry.
So they run outside to check on their ship, to make sure it wasn't damaged in the whatever that was. It's a great little character moment. The world might be ending, but their primary concern is their friend, the Merry.
And the ship isn't there. The Going Merry is gone. Instead, they find Johnny and Yosaku, their bony hunter buddies, flailing in the water, nearly drowning.
They pull them out, and the two of them deliver the awful news.
Nami, she threw them overboard. She stole the Going Merry and took all of their treasure with her.
The betrayal lands with the weight of an anchor. Just as they're facing this unimaginable external threat, their own navigator, their friend, has just abandoned them and stolen everything they have. The pacing here is masterful. Oda hits you with the world-breaking power-scaling moment and then immediately follows it up with a deeply personal, emotional gut punch.
It's a double gut punch. Your greatest enemy is at the door and your friend just stabbed you in the back. You can just feel the air go out of Luffy. His face just falls. He doesn't get angry. He just looks empty, stunned.
But I have to wonder about the timing of it. She provides the perfect distraction for her escape the very moment this world-ending threat appears on the horizon. This feels less like a simple act of greed and more like a calculated, desperate move. She's running.
It doesn't make it hurt any less for them, though. They're just standing there, stunned. And as all this chaos is unfolding, the final piece of the puzzle drifts into view.
Zeph is looking out at the wreckage of Krieg's ship, and he sees it, a small boat shaped like a coffin with a single green flame for a light, drifting towards them through the mist. The imagery is so gothic, so stark.
And on that boat is one man, the man with the hawk eyes. Dracul Mihawk has arrived.
The storm has made landfall.
Super incredible chapter. Just an absolute masterclass in pacing and escalation. The way Oda weaves these plot threads together, Zoro's goal, Krieg's arrogance, Nami's secret, it all collides in this one moment with the arrival of this absolute monster.
It recontextualizes the entire arc. We thought Don Krieg was the villain. He's not. He's just the loud noise that woke up the real monster. He's the prologue, the guy who sets the stage for the main event without even realizing it.
He's the opening act, and he doesn't even know the headliner is here to kick him off the stage. The power scaling jump here is one of the most significant in the early series. We went from fighting guys with big spears and tricky cats to a guy who cuts ships for sport. This is a whole new league.
It's the true introduction to the Grand Line's level of power. Zeph tried to tell them. He said things like this are common. Now they're seeing it firsthand. I have a feeling this isn't just a strong pirate. This feels like someone who operates on a global scale. Maybe one of those major figures who helps balance the entire world.
And he's standing directly in the path of Roronoa Zoro. Zoro didn't have to go find his goal came and found him. The sheer destiny of it all is just perfect. It feels like the world is responding to the strength of Zoro's ambition.
Let's talk about Nami for a moment, though. This is a huge turning point for her character. We've seen her be selfish and money-obsessed, but this feels different. This is cruel.
It does. Stealing wallets is one thing. Stealing their ship, their home, their means of travel, and leaving them stranded in the middle of a war zone? That's another level entirely. But like you said, the timing is too specific. Something must have triggered this. It has to be connected to whatever she's so afraid of.
I think a switch just flipped. She's not just running away from the Straw Hats. She's running towards something else, something she believes she has to face alone. Taking the ship and the money isn't just about abandoning them. It's about equipping herself for whatever fight she's heading towards.
And she took their treasure. That's the part that stings. It feels so personal. After everything they've been through together, she just took it all. That treasure represents Syrup Village, Orangetown, everything they've accomplished. It feels like she's erasing their shared past.
It raises the question of what's more valuable to her, the money she's been saving or the bonds she's been forming. Right now, it seems like she made her choice, but I suspect it's far more complicated than that. This feels like an act of self-sacrifice in a twisted way. Maybe she thinks by leaving, she's protecting them from what she has to face.
It has to be. Oda doesn't write characters this flat. There's a deep, painful reason for this, and I think we're about to find out what it is. It's just brutal that it happens at the worst possible moment.
That's often when these revelations occur, when the pressure is at its absolute highest. It forces the truth to the surface.
Let's not forget Zoro's speech, bro. He threw my own life away. That's the heart of it all. That's the central theme of the whole series, really. What are you willing to sacrifice for your dream? For Zoro, the answer is everything. No hesitation.
And that's why he's on Luffy's crew. They all share that core conviction, even if their dreams are different. It's what Sanji is seeing for the first time up close. He's surrounded by chefs who dream of cooking, but not in the same life or death way these pirates do. They dream of opening their own place, maybe. Luffy and Zoro dream of conquering the world.
It's the difference between a job and a calling. Sanji's a phenomenal chef, but he's about to see what happens when people whose entire existence is tied to their ambition face off against the world. It's a wake-up call for him, a challenge to his own dreams.
It's also interesting to look at the author's comment for this week. Oda gives a shout-out to Hiroyuki Takei, the creator of Shaman King.
Oh, that's cool. What's the connection?
They were assistants together while they were assistants on Rurouni Kenshin. They apparently made a promise years ago to all have series running in Shonen Jump at the same time. This chapter came out about a month after Shaman King started, so Oda is congratulating him on them finally achieving that shared dream.
I love that. You can feel the camaraderie. A bunch of young artists dreaming big and then actually doing it. It kind of mirrors the themes right in the chapter. Setting a huge goal to get a serialized manga in the biggest magazine in Japan, and then actually putting in the work and betting your life on it to get there. It's so fitting.
Exactly. It's a nice little piece of real-world context for a chapter all about the scale of dreams and the conviction it takes to pursue them. The inherited will is right there in the author's notes.
Man, what a setup. The stage is set for an absolute classic confrontation and a rescue mission. The crew is split, betrayed, and facing down a legend.
The stakes have never been higher. The East Blue is officially in the rearview mirror. We are in Grand Line territory now, emotionally and in terms of power levels. The training wheels are off.
I cannot wait to see what happens next. The fallout from this is going to be massive. How does Zoro react to seeing Mihawk in the flesh? What does Luffy do about Nami? What is Krieg going to do now that his ride is sunk? So many questions.
I agree. This chapter feels like a door slamming shut on the first phase of their adventure, and a new one creaking open. A much heavier, more foreboding door.
A big, scary, ship-sized door. All right, what do we think might happen next chapter?
Okay, predictions. I'll go first. My first one is that Mihawk's purpose is incredibly simple. He was chasing Don Krieg's fleet because they escaped the Grand Line, and he considers it his job to clean up. He wasn't bored. He was pest control. He was just finishing the job.
Ooh, I like that. That is even colder than being bored. He's not here for a grand reason. He's just taking out the trash that washed up on his shore. That's absolutely brutal. Okay, what else?
My second prediction is that we'll get a flashback, or at least a brief explanation from Johnny and Yosaku that tells us Nami's specific destination. It won't be a mystery for long. Luffy will have a target. The next objective will be made clear by the end of the chapter, setting up the chase.
Okay. Setting the next arc immediately while this one is still exploding. Classic Oda. All right, my turn. My first prediction is a lock. Zoro challenges Mihawk. Not next arc, not in 10 chapters, next chapter. He sees the goal, he goes for it. He's not going to wait for a better time. There is no better time for a man like Zoro. The challenge will be issued before chapter 50 is over.
That feels inevitable, I agree. He's not the type to hesitate. His entire philosophy is built on taking this exact chance.
My second prediction is about Krieg. He's going to see Mihawk, but his arrogance won't let him accept that one man sliced his ship. He'll blame Zeph and the Barati, claiming it's some kind of trick or secret weapon they have. He'll focus all his rage on the wrong target, completely ignoring the real threat that is literally floating right there.
So he'll try to continue his assault on the restaurant while Mihawk just watches. That sounds exactly like something Krieg would do. His pride is too massive to admit the truth. He needs a scapegoat he thinks he can beat.
Exactly. He's a small man with a big ego. He can't handle a world where someone like Mihawk exists. He'll create a fiction he can understand, and that fiction is that the chefs are to blame, and it's going to get him and his crew absolutely wrecked.
Both very solid predictions. The confrontation is coming, the chase is about to begin, and a very arrogant man is about to be humbled.
It's all coming to a head on the deck of a floating restaurant. What a story. We'll be back next time to break down Chapter 50.